Hi, I'm Shantanu Shekhar. I lead go-to-market operations for Gong in EMEA and APAC. So essentially it's revenue operations, so everything to do with go-to-market strategy, go-to-market processes, systems, insights, as well as enablement. So in Gong, we've got enablement as part of the operations umbrella as well. So Gong, I think, is one of the pioneers of the revenue intelligence movement. We're about 8 to 10 years old now, and we've really scaled a lot over the last few years. The industry we're in is obviously the entire go-to-market tech stack. If I think about the number of players that you have in there, at last count, there are more than 10,000 players. But if I go specifically into the space that we play in, and that I would think about it as maybe 5 or 10 big vendors that we compete with. I think the two things that has been really helpful about DealHub is just the fact that it's so easy to use. Everybody in the sales team loves it. In fact, for about a year, I was also managing a sales team within Gong, and literally the part I love about it is there is no noise. And in fact, as a RevOps person, the best system that I can ever implement is something which gets adopted with zero noise. And that, to me, DealHub is really, really top of the line there. The second thing which I think I really like is the flexibility. And we've scaled a lot over the last few years, and we've been able to grow with it. So that's really been helpful to DealHub. The way I think about it is, as we grew, right? When Gong started, we were a single product company. We were conversation intelligence. We had a very simple product: one SKU, one price. You quote accordingly. Over time, we've now grown from 1 to 2 and now 3 products as we've gone broader in the go-to-market tech stack. And I've again used multiple CPQ players in the past, and DealHub is unique in where it's been very, very convenient and efficient for us to move from that single product to multi-product, and I think that's been incredible. Second, just from a number of people within Gong, so our sales teams have grown a lot. Like I mentioned, my role itself is international. When we bought DealHub, we didn't have an international team. So when we came in, being able to just scale that and move broader has been incredible. And I think our deal desk team, operations team, sales team, everybody loves DealHub right now. So I think one of the things which I found always was tough in most implementations was the discounting workflows in most CPQs. And I think even in DealHub, there were a few, again, I've seen product improvements over the last few years itself within the system. But I think that's one thing which is definitely better. Second, just in terms of turnaround time of quotes, I think quite often that's something which can be especially when you come to quarter end, and I think people in sales will know exactly what I'm talking about. You're waiting until the last minute to refresh things, but just the code being able to come in seamlessly. You rely on the code to go through, and it just does. And then at the end of it, it's a great interface for being able to know the full visibility of how it's going through the customer side as well. So it's been incredible that way. So I think, again, Gong as a company, we really believe in being customer first. And what that has also meant is when we're thinking about contracting with our customers, we end up trying to be as flexible in terms of what they need, whether it's billing terms, payment terms, certain time when maybe half your seats start now, a certain number of seats get ramped at a certain time. And all of those things, we bring it together. It's been very, very easy and flexible in how we've been using DealHub for that. Second, I think one thing which everyone in the sales floor as well, and I sit literally in the middle of a sales floor in Dublin, is very confident that if you're making changes, and sometimes you might need to do 3 quotes on the same piece because the customer wanted it a different way, they're very comfortable and confident that it won't be for a lack of system that we won't be able to do it. It's maybe more something to do with the requirements might not suit what we actually intend as process, but from a system perspective, very reliable. There are probably 3 parts to that for me. So one is the administrative burden, and I'll come to that, what I mean by that. Second is literally how you think about the process and how it's designed, and third is actually what's executed. And I think on all 3, to me, it's incredible how DealHub works out. So on the administrative burden, and I call it powers of God, if I may, but literally being able to go in and as an admin, sometimes you might need to approve because there's different time zones you're working across, and so on. Again, I've used multiple systems where it's been easy or difficult. DealHub is very, very clean. You have a very clear process to go in and say, this is why X, Y, Z was done. So that's something which I've been able to use very, very easily. Second, from a design perspective, if you think about and we've been using elements of it, and I know that you've been able to customize some pieces for us, so thank you. But even if I think about how the design is meant, whether you've gone from one product to two to three, and how a certain pricing element comes in, let's say, I'll give you an example. Right? So you're doing a multi-year contract with billing terms to start at a net 60 payment, and you're doing a half-yearly payout, right? So you can do all of that by design. It's very clean, intuitive, and straight. You just go in and go, this is what I'm changing, this is what I'm changing, and there are 5 things that you don't need to change. It's defaulted. And third, from how you actually execute, the sales teams just go in and know that, okay, these are the 3-4 things I need to check. If there's an error, I know exactly why it's happening, and that's very simple. So again, I go back to no noise means it's an incredible product, and I think that's been fantastic for us. So I think maybe 2 things I love the most about it. So I think one, it's almost like as an end customer, and I've signed a couple of DealHub contracts as a customer as well. I just love the interface that comes in with DealHub. It's great. And second, as a user, I think the most, I would say, and I've talked about flexibility, I've talked about ease of use, but the interface is just so intuitive and clear. So to me, just having that clean process on this is where I'm going, because most systems can get confusing. Just like I think there's so many ways you look at data, and you can get noise. How do you find signal within that? And I think DealHub helps you find the signal of what needs to change, and that's been very helpful for me. So I think in our sales process, we've made a couple of changes even in our organization. We were initially a hunter-farmer model. We actually moved from being in a hunter-farmer model to more of a single full-cycle AE model this year as well, and that's more an org change. And from a sales process, we've made changes on stages and so on and so forth. It's been very, very efficient to make the change downstream from CRM to CPQ and DealHub, and it's been very helpful. I'd probably compare and contrast this with, because I've always seen, at Gong, the time I've spent has been with DealHub. I'll probably contrast it with other companies where we've used other CPQs, not to be named. And I would say there's a big efficiency gain just from the speed of turning around the code with DealHub, which includes everything from how you set up the code, what are the different parameters that go in, how flexible it is, what needs to go in, how's the discounting approval routes done, how administrative changes need to happen. All of that is much, much quicker. So I've seen, I would say, a marked difference in the efficiency there. I would say reliability is super important when it comes to codes, and I have seen 0 challenges and issues with DealHub. There could always be manual error which goes in, but I've never seen a system error. Yeah, I think so. So with the go-to-market changes, so we made a few changes both in our org model, but also in our. So I talked about moving in terms of our product offerings to multi-product solution as well. I think we've also made a lot of changes on the way we price, and again, this is a world in which you're probably iterating and testing and going back to the drawing board quite often. What's been very helpful is again the flexibility of changing SKUs within DealHub when you come to whatever you've made a change on the CRM as well. So that's been very, very effective and very useful for us to know that if we make a change, it's not for the lack of a feature gap that we'll be stuck. We've scaled the use of DealHub across three parameters actually. One, we moved from being a US only company to a global company. We launched EMEA 3 years ago. We've actually launched APAC now. So we'll have people in Singapore and Sydney selling DealHub as well. So it just has different complications. Second, we actually scaled the number of functions using it, because earlier it was just AEs and we had account managers who were selling it. Now we have customer success managers whom we actually enabled earlier this year in how to use DealHub, and it was again seamless. And the third main piece in which we just the volume of users. I think it's gone almost 4x from the time we bought it, and it's been very, very seamless. The two main integrations we have today for DealHub, I think, are one with our CRM, which is Salesforce, and with Gong itself. So the two main things we use it for is just getting obviously everything from the opportunity to the quote very cleanly synced up. And then going back to Gong, I know that especially when we think about a deal being signed or about to be signed, we tend to see it on Gong, and just it's helpful to see when a quote was opened and so on as well from there. I think it's a deep relationship and partnership, both from a product perspective as well. I think it's like I mentioned, the usage of being able to see what's happening in the contact and quote, and in Gong, it's one of the customer touch points, which I think is huge. But even second, as a user and customer of DealHub, I think we know and rely on DealHub for our daily signatures, daily deals to be closed. It's just something which we can rely on, and we feel we have the right touch points and the right customer value being generated by our relationship with your team. So I'm really excited by that. It's been very positive. There's folks on my team who have a closer touch point with the customer success team, but overall we've been very, very lucky to get very quick turnaround times and very, very reliable. I think the two ways in which I think it'll be very, very important for us to continue working with DealHub. I think one, we're in a stage where we're going into hopefully continue growing across the go-to-market tech stack. We could have more products in the future. I'm sure that's something we'll continue working with DealHub on. Second, we do hope and expect that we'll continue our growth story in the next few years. And as we scale, I'm very confident that DealHub will help us do that. I always think about any system that's being used for the sales team, because that's the one team which, if they're not happy, they will let you know. Mm-hmm. And the moment that you hear mostly positive things about the system or platform, it's that you're doing something right. So very impressed by everything that we got from there.